I'm going to explain God in the simplest way I possibly can. And the reason for understanding this is because basically you are God in essence. That which understands these words right now is what God is. God is pure infinite reality. And it understands itself. So once we understand God from the point of view of the relative, once we understand the infinite from the point of view of the finite, it frees us from the limitations of the finite experience. Now, that doesn't mean that we start able to teleport and read minds and do all the crazy stuff like that, even though reading minds is actually possible. It just means that we're free, not free to do, we're free from. But then being free from actually gives you the freedom to do things in the relative world. So let me show you the most simple thing that I possibly can. So see this white page as just existence, just pure existence. Now, if you were to zoom in, you don't even know, it's the only thing there has ever been. You don't even know at this moment that this is even white. It is just pure existence itself. Now, existence exists. It is. And what we find is that in our reality right now, existence is. There is existence. And what happens is we create a limitation. The limitation is actually not really a limitation. A limitation would have to be something that could actually limit something. Our limitation doesn't really limit us. It's actually a triumph of freedom. We're so infinite that the one thing that we don't have is a limitation, yet we're even able to make that limitation. So we can transcend further than are possible, than what should be possible. And because of the fact we're capable of doing that, we're also capable of not limiting ourselves, hence we're not really limited at all, although we can create the illusion of a limitation. And this limitation is the body-mind. And this is a mind. So there is existence, and existence contracts like a whirlpool into a body-mind, and that body-mind experiences existence. And it experiences then existence is in a blank field of pure potentiality, and God creates existence of experience, and experience is one totality of everything. Basically, it is the experience of everything, and the everythingness is the pure potentiality of God. So God is in a formless, innate, aware existence which manifests as everything. And everything is quite literally everything. Every single thing that could ever possibly be, God is that. So it creates an experience of that. And that experience of that, one of those experiences is called life. And in order to have those experiences, it contracts itself into this little whirlpool that we see right here. So the existence-ness, it never becomes this line. It doesn't really become that. It's like when I say the world a whirlpool, because it's like, imagine this, the white is the ocean. Imagine a whirlpool in the ocean. It doesn't actually become something else. It just simply contracts in itself, like a waveform, any type of waveform. It's a contraction of itself. So it contracts into itself, and then it creates a localized point of view. And that localized point of view is what we call a mind. That's what we're experiencing right now, is a mind. And you can think of God like a tree. So we have this tree. And in this tree, there's different branches. And in those branches, this is what we call souls. So we have the trunk of the tree. Let's make this a bit bigger. And then we have branches off this tree. And the branches, the trunk is like God, and the branches are like individual experiences. And on each branch, there is a leaf. That's a terrible leaf. There is a leaf on each branch. So the branch is the collective soul, and the leaves are like the the mind. So right now, your body mind is a leaf on the tree of God, and your soul has many leaves. So a soul is a focal experience of God, and it stems off into different experiences. And your soul is basically collecting different experiences. So your soul is not just your one mind right now, because there is no time and space. Time and space are only relative to individual experience, which is actually non-existent, because there is no actual individual experience. There's an appearance of an individual experience, but the individual experience is only relative to time, to objects. And objects themselves, they're not the experience of time and space. So time and space is basically, space is the distance between objects, and time is the distance between thoughts, even if that thought is a memory. So but thought and objects, they're completely intermittent. They come and go, they disappear and appear. They're not a solid substance to base any reality off. A reality can only be based off truth. Truth can only be based off what is consistent and they're ever present and doesn't change form. So you can't base reality off something that changes form, and time and space is only relative to things that have form and that change. So you can't base reality off that. So basically, what we're seeing here is that the tree, I did a terrible tree, but you see that the tree has leaves on the branches, and these leaves are minds, and each branch is your soul, is a collective soul, collective psyche. So because there's no time, you're basically experiencing like all of your souls right now. Like your soul is experiencing loads of things right now. And there's no real linear structure to it, especially unless we're in this time frame. So God basically is the entire thing, the entire tree that is experiencing individual points of experience that creates uniqueness. God is infinitely unique, and it expresses its uniqueness in creating an infinitely unique number of seeming individual selves. But these cells aren't fundamentally individual. So the consciousness that we share, the trunk of the tree, is consciousness. Yeah, this is terrible with a pen. It's consciousness, and consciousness exists. And existence is real. Meaning there is reality, and that means that something is real. Like, think about it. There's something's either fake or something's real, or something's illusory or it's real. There is a reality, and we know there is a reality because something exists, and we know there is a reality because we're aware of it. And if we're aware of an existing reality, that reality is real, basically. And reality is real not just because it exists, but because it has no changing form. Existence itself has no form. It doesn't. We can say that things have form, but these don't have existence. Existence has objects. And we know that because there is existence. And there is no other way of telling if there is existence or not, other than to be aware of existence. And you can't be aware of existence without knowing it. And something illusory cannot know a reality. So that means we are real. But that doesn't mean the body mind is fundamentally real. It means whatever we are is fundamentally real. And that real conscious reality is God. And God creates everything, because it is everything. But it's also unmanifest. So the everything that we experience is actually nothing, which is the paradox. We're experiencing nothing from the point of view of everything, but that means we're also nothing experiencing everything. So what we're basically doing is having real fun. Like, this whole process is just fun, like SpongeBob. F is for friends who do stuff together. U is for you and me. N is for anything and any time at all. This is what we're here to do, is literally to optimize for fun. And we love to learn and implement what we learn. Think of everything that you have ever done. You've learnt how to make the cup of tea, then you love to execute on the cup of tea. Everything we do is purely for enjoyment and fun. We love to learn things, and we love to execute on what we learn. We love to learn things and implement what we learn. This is one of the things that we just love to do. Life is constantly teaching us. Nature naturally grows, and this is the evolution that we're in as a human being in this third dimension. So the leaf of the tree of God is you right now. You're a leaf on your branch of your soul, but the consciousness that you're experiencing is the same on, it's the entire tree. The consciousness is the entire thing. The entire thing is the same consciousness, which is, in this instance, just the pure white existence-ness. So the traditions, what we're basically aiming towards is to recognize pure consciousness. Why? Why recognize pure consciousness? Because consciousness usually is wrapped up in objects. So basically what that means is that you're experiencing right now, and for most people, they don't realize that they are, like, they think that awareness is limited to an object. They think that if there was no object, that awareness would disappear. They think that if a body-mind wasn't there, then awareness would disappear. It's not true. This is why we have to recognize pure consciousness, because pure consciousness means to be aware in the absence of objects. So basically to see that pure consciousness, or consciousness itself, is completely autonomous. So if it's autonomous, what that means is that it doesn't require the body or the mind in order to know itself. Because if it needed something to know itself, it would have to use the thing as like a tool to use it. If you want to know Google, you go to Google. If you want to know this cup, you look at the cup. If you want to know anything in the relative world, if it exists in the relative world, which means if it exists in the mind or the body, because it's the only relative world we have, then it has to be accessed via the mind and the body, right? Think about it. If something exists in the world, even if that's in our body, a heartbeat, a brain, or whatever it is, it has to be accessed inside the dimension that it is in, using a vehicle that is in that same dimension, right? So if you want to use a computer, use the mouse. It's in the same with a cursor. You see what I mean? But we don't access, if you go to your experience right now of simply knowing that you are aware, knowing itself, knowing awareness itself doesn't require an object. You think it requires an object, and most people think it requires an object because they are still stuck in object-based consciousness. The whole spiritual traditions, the reason people go to monasteries for 50 years is because they are so accustomed to getting their mind entangled in objects. So we need to recognize pure consciousness. We recognize it's autonomous. That's what gives us the understanding and the first glimpse that awareness is infinite. And it seems like a small, insignificant thing to simply know that I'm aware. But it's profound, because the implications of that mean that you can know awareness without it needing anything else, which means it doesn't exist in time and space. And it's the first great realization, because we realize that awareness is not limited to an object. And if it's not limited to an object, then what is it limited by? And then we realize there is no limitation to it. So recognizing God is as simple as firstly knowing that you are aware, knowing that you exist, and knowing that you are real. Because God is real, reality, existence, real truth, reality, existence. And God is basically the same consciousness that we are all experiencing right now, which is actually what creates reality. So reality is created by itself. And guess who is knowing that reality? The only one that could know it, reality itself. What is reality? Reality is that which is experiencing itself. What is experiencing itself? You. What are you? God. You are God experiencing itself. That is what God is. And all we need to do for unconditional happiness is recognize pure consciousness, which is the background in which everything takes place, which is your experience of pure being. Being itself. This is the essence of all meditation practices. The place that all the meditation practices are trying to take you is to being. Because that is literally the substratum of existence. It's being. Being means existence. And once we are being, we are aware of our own existence, and that is what being alive is. So when we say, I'm alive, this is life, I am alive, what we're really saying is, I am aware of my own existence. And that existence is not limited to the body, and it's not limited to the mind. It is completely infinite, meaning it's not limited. So once we recognize infinity, we don't recognize it as a state of mind. We don't recognize it as an add-on to experience. We actually realize it as not limitedness. In Indian traditions, they call it the neti process. This is why they say, I'm not this, I'm not that, I'm not this, I'm not that. This is just me phrasing it in a slightly different way. We recognize our infinite nature, not by recognizing a thing, by recognizing the absence of a thing. And what's left over at that point is pure consciousness, pure being. And pure being is not limited, and that which is conscious, real, and exists, that is not limited, is God. And that is what creates everything. Everything is a manifestation of God. It's a creative, poetic expression of God. So when we talk about God in these traditions, God is right there, looking at me right now. That is God. God is the one understanding these words. What else could there be to understand other than that which created understanding, other than that which created the capacity to experience? You are experiencing. You are God. So own that. You see, you don't own that running around, hey, everybody, I'm God. Because no, that's not the way we do it, right? We use wisdom in these scenarios, and we start to actually realize God wants to be human, and this is the human experience, so I'm going to do a very good job of being human, and that's your job right now. Your job as God is to be human, because that's what God is godding itself to be. You see? So God doesn't mean with this idea of being omnipotent. No, God actually means, oh my gosh, how beautiful is this? Like, look at this little thing, look at these objects, look at the life around me. Everything is beautiful because it's completely coherent. And making this video right now is God's action, you see? The wind blowing is God's action. God wants to be doing whatever it's doing. God doesn't want to be God. God is already God. It just bees whatever it's being. That's complete harmony, complete synchronicity, complete flow state. That's what God is experiencing. I have a community where I talk about this and show people how to actually integrate everything that I'm saying right now. If you'd like to join, the program is in the description of this video. I would love to see you there. Have an amazing day, guys. Take care. Bye.